Confused about how to plan for your retirement? Shawn Maloney is here to help. Shawn has created the Retire Happy framework that considers more than just how much you should save. Getting information and tools to preserve your financial future is minutes away. Welcome to the Priority of Retirement with your host, Shawn Maloney.
Welcome to another episode of the Priority of Retirement, where we dive into all kinds of aspects of retirement planning, unpacking those strategies, ideas, and insights for that thoughtful, rewarding journey into retirement. Today's episode, we have Raymond Lavine on the line, a leading expert in long-term care insurance and principal of Lavine LTC Benefits. He has a distinct passion for LTC advocacy, and it comes from some of his personal experiences with his mom and dad, and we'll ask him some questions about that as we go along. So he knows firsthand how the right plan safeguards your financial well-being when it comes to LTC. I want to mention as well, he's also a U.S. Army veteran, so thank you so much for your service. He served with distinction in the 82nd Airborne and 173rd Airborne Brigade in Vietnam, earning a Bronze Star and Purple Heart. So, Raymond, I really appreciate you coming on today. Honor to have you.
Thank you for having me on your program, Shawn. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And also, in the words of Lyndon Johnson, he would say, thank you for the kind remarks. My father would believe it. My mother would love it.
There you go. There you go. Well, tell us with that. It's a good lead in. Tell us a little bit about your passion around this, right? I mean, with your mom and dad, and what got you into the LTC side of things.
Well, it's been a process where, when you're younger, you think about your whole life is ahead of you, as the cliche would go, and you think about your education, you think about relationships, and most of all, you think about your career. What are you going to do to make money? What are you going to do to have a life? And what I'm doing, it just sort of happened. It was sort of a process where my parents were both lawyers, and they actually met at USC Law School in the 40s, which was unheard of at the time because there were very few women at USC at the time, especially in law school. So it was the right timing for them to meet, because then that's how they begat me. If there was any change in the scenario, I would be begat by somebody else. But the point is that throughout my father's life, he actually had a series of very long-term care. There's one time he fell off a horse and broke his hip and his arm, and he was out for a year. And then it took him another couple of years to recover. And then he had a heart attack, and that was, again, a long period. And then finally, and in your field, retire happy. He retired in his early 70s. He was a judge, and he really loved it. But, it was just a point of, how long do you want to do this? It wasn't at that point for the money. It was, he wanted to do other things in his life. And so what happens? He gets a heart attack, and 2.5 years later, he dies. But that really disrupted, my mother's life and her career. But she spent, several long periods being his caregiver. And the other sort of, put other things in perspective. My parents were not insurance buyers. They, would buy insurance because of what they, car insurance and business insurance. And I don't think they ever bought life insurance. But they bought what they needed. But in the early 70s, now the third or fourth time my father needed care, my mother, they applied for long-term care insurance. And my mother got it because she was indomitable. In fact, she died a couple of years ago at 103. And if you want to talk about somebody that knew how to use her long-term care benefit, she uses it for almost 20 years.
Wow.
She got a lot more out of it than she ever paid in premium. My father was declined. But at that point, they realized, even though it was much later, that owning long-term care, having a caregiving plan, it really did matter. Now, also is the thing. My parents were, and they had very successful careers. I mean, they did very well financially, very well. So you can say, well, why get a caregiving plan? You're making, $1 million or more a year. Why waste the money, the premium to do that? And the reason, and my mother had, I thought, the best answer I've ever heard. If you look at any, books about selling or this, what's a good response? My mother's response was, nobody has that much money to pay for their lifestyle and for caregiving.
Yeah.
I thought, hey, that works for me, because that also goes into, why people don't think about getting it. They'll say, well, I can afford, I can self-fund, I'll die early. I'll have, whatever, I'll plan it later. And just as in your business, if you want to be successful, if you want to have, the goodies in life and the things, you got to do things incrementally. Unless, unless you're a scion of, some family, and you're going to get $1 billion or whatever. For most of us, we have to accumulate, and we have to get things. And in the words of Charles Duhigg, he's an author. He wrote The Power of Habit, and then his latest book was Super Communicators, where he talks about conversation and interpersonal interactions. But what he talks about in Power of Habit is you got to be in the habit of being financially educated, financially aware. And if you don't want to learn it yourself, then hire Shawn, to say, look, I'm doing these things in my life, but I know that I need a coach, I need a guide, I need a savant, I need what is it, Muhammad on the mountaintop, whatever it is, we need coaches.
Yeah,
And
100%.
I don't always think, I didn't always think I needed coaches, but if you have, the coach that you like and trust, it's astonishing, how much better things can be. I mean, my wife and I have been married over 40 years, and I'm finding out that she's a great coach. I just didn't always listen. You
Got the selective listening, right?
Exactly, exactly. But to get back to about it, it is a part. Long-term care insurance is a part of your estate plan, and as I was saying, when we were talking before we went on the program, is that unlike what I do is something that you're just like retirement planning. It just doesn't happen unless you inherit it. Unless it's something you accumulate. And you save money, you invest money. Maybe you have other things that you're doing that you buy into a business, or you have a business, and it does and it does well, but it takes years to do it. Warren Buffett will tell you that too. Or Charlie Munger, his partner. They always say the first 100,000 is the hardest to make. After that, it's easier.
Right.
But you got to, but you got so in what I do, the unfortunate part is that it isn't a kind of plan that you own that's going to give you immediate satisfaction. It's not like, you buy a car, you buy, a nice meal. It's something in the future for something that you
Right.
don't want to happen, but it's going to happen. You're going to get older if you make it that long, and you're you'll either have frailty, which is what happened to my mother. And also, she actually, within 6 weeks, she actually broke both her arms. With that, that's how she
Wow.
qualified for long term. But it wasn't, it wasn't, it was that, but it was the frailty that eventually, cost the most money. But there are other things. There's cognitive. A lot of people have cognitive issues, and you don't have to be, old like me to think about, cognitive. There are people that are in their 40s and 50s, that have forms of dementia, and the other is that you have health issues. People get strokes. people get in, bike accidents. People, I worry about that. People are, and I'm in a commercial area, and people sort of wandering around on their phone. And I'm saying, I sure hope I don't hit them. I
Right.
really, it's not that, it's not intentional. Anyway, but the point is that what I want to, it could happen any time, and it could happen for long periods of time, which is what happened with my father. He recovered. The last time he didn't recover, it was fatal. He was dying. But other times but it probably would have helped them if they had insurance before, but they waited a lot longer.
Yeah.
So it can happen at any age, but we always think of long-term care as you're old, and it could happen, but it's either illness, which happens to us. We get cancer, we get strokes, uh, uh, um, you know, uh, um, we get my daughter, for example, has Graves' disease. And so there are a lot of things, diseases that you can get. Neurological. I hadn't thought, people have neurological,
Yeah.
people get so those are really the four: if frailty, cognitive, illness, or accident, it can
Yeah.
happen. And so it happened, hopefully, when I talk to people, I'm talking about the future. But I'm also saying that it's most probable, if you're older, that,
Sure.
if you have a plan, you're never going to get better. The only thing that you can get is I can make, because you have the resources that you can hire people, or you can pay your family, depending what kind of plan you have, that you can have a good life. You can really have a good life. And I'll say that personally. My father, they went on some really nice vacations. They had the resources to do it, but the only way they could do it is that they would do vacations, like go places where they had care support. And
Right.
people can do that. And if you don't believe me, you say, well, he's just, exaggerating or something. Look at the 34th president, Roosevelt. No, 32nd, Roosevelt. He was in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
He even had polio. Was he able to function? He had a lot of caregivers. He had a lot of people to help him. And I also sometimes I'll use, this is aging, but Raymond Burr, they had a program called Ironsides.
Yeah.
And he had that kind of presence, but he was in a wheelchair, so he had all these people doing all these things. But he was sort of the Oz, the central brain.
Yeah. 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 What do you think? I mean, long-term care is one of those things, and you mentioned quite a few things about, it's not necessarily just when you get older. That's, generally where a lot of people think about it. What do you think some of the biggest misconceptions are around long-term care planning?
Well, one of the things I'll say is that caregiving is not a place. It's caregiving. And also, a lot of people think that hope is not a plan. It's just hope. And I also think it's financial literacy. You know, I never took a course in finance in high school. I did in college, but nobody ever talked about long-term care benefits. Nobody. In fact, if you read the literature these days, they'll always talk about, all the things you can do, to help yourself. But few people will say, "Oh, one of the things you ought to do is." Seek a coach, advice for your finances, but also, understand what insurance you need to own, and whether it's personal insurance, or the big trend now is long-term care benefits offered by companies. It's
Mhm.
that few are talking about it, but it's really needed. Where Because they're finding that a lot of employees aren't showing up or quitting because of they have a family member that needs care, and it isn't something that I'm predicting in the future. It's now. It's happening now. I forgot, what was your original?
About the biggest misconceptions.
Yeah. So those are the missing is we don't know what we don't know, and it isn't. And when you see the influencers, you see the writers, they don't really bring it up very much, or the people just don't advocate it. Accountants usually don't advocate it. Attorneys usually don't advocate it. Financial planners, some do, some don't. Some like it, some don't. Um, and wealth advisors, a lot of times they don't because they'll say, look, my client is worth 50 million. Why do they need long-term care benefits to even talk about it? They have enough. And I'm telling you that, I mean, unless you're in the really billionaire class, when you consider how much long-term care benefits, not just the cost of the plan. That's how people always say, oh, it costs too much. Oh, it costs too much. How much you think it's going to cost any less if you don't do something? If you don't have home insurance and
Yeah.
you're in the Pacific Palisades, you think you're going to have more money?
Well, it's insurance in general, right? Everybody, you can't go out and get it after you need it, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And it's, and I get it. It's one of those things that really any type of, really any type of what you mentioned, like home and auto and those kind of things, that people may complain about getting those kind of things. And no one likes, including myself, no one wants to pay those things, but it sure can bail you out if something happens, right? It's all about risk management, right?
Well, it is, but you have to have, either you find out yourself. I mean, there are three ways that, I get people to contact me. One is that they have been in a care giving issue situation and they say, oh God, we need to do something. The second is, that there somebody like a financial planner or professional advisor will encourage their family say, look, even if you don't know what it is, you're not sure about it, yeah, you need to look into it. And the third area, and this is where I really want to get to, are the unconscious. And what I mean by the unconscious are those that should be thinking about, but they're not thinking about it. They got, they're thinking about other things in their life. But it is nothing's. They don't think anything has happened or will happen. So they're what I call the unconscious.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, and like you alluded to the different cost of long-term care and care, in general. I mean, and I don't think a lot of people realize the true cost of what that can really do. I know when we talk to people about planning and their retirement, I mean, it's outside of market risk and those kind of things. Healthcare and long-term care can be one of the biggest things that can devastate, someone's nest egg, right? If it's not, accounted for properly. But talk to that a little bit about some of the biggest financial risks, retirees face, if they don't have long-term care in place, right? And how do you avoid those pitfalls?
Cash flow. That's I'll use the financial term, cash
Yeah.
flow.
Right.
And it's if whatever assets you have has to produce income. And if it's producing income, depending on what form it is, if it's dividends, you're in one tax bracket. If you're earning money in another way, it's another tax. So you're dealing with different tax brackets. But one way or another, when that money comes out into your bank account or however it's distributed, first of all, you're paying after tax. Then you're using that cash flow for your lifestyle. And I don't know of anybody, including myself, that wants my lifestyle disrupted.
Right.
I'm picky that way. I like my lifestyle, but what I don't like is if I have to spend money on things that I know I do out of my cash flow that I could have done something else. So by owning personal insurance or a long-term care plan, what you're doing is you're paying really pennies on the dollar, and you're transferring the risk of your caregiving money. Because I mean that's what I do. I'm not going to make your life any happier. I mean I could, but what I'm making you is that I'm the money guy. I'm the person that if you have a plan that you'll have sufficient money, if you have the right kind of plan for your situation, whether it's reimbursement or indemnity, meaning where just transfer money to your checking account, that you can then pay for the life, either caregiving at home, or you can pay, if you really need to go to a care center. But it helps everybody. It's so much less expensive. It's a lot. I mean, again, my mother, it cost her everything she paid in premium was returned multiple times of what she paid into it. So if I mean, unless if you want a long-term care plan and you die within a month, yeah, okay, you didn't get your money back. But if you, however number of years you pay into a plan, if after a year you've got more back than you ever paid in premiums, and you'll get more. Is that a good deal? And if you're thinking about, I'm analytical, I do my balance sheets or something, it's a good investment. And I like a good investment.
I hear you. I'm with you. Well, it's just one of those things that, a lot of people don't think about. And, we tell people all the time that if you don't have healthcare and long-term care included in your overall financial plan, your overall retirement plan, then you don't have a complete plan. Because you're leaving a big risk on the table.
Yeah. And a couple more things. When people are looking at long-term care plans, first of all, in a lot of people talk about hybrid plans and traditional, and for me it's like thinking about all the car models. The first thing you have to do is to, reduce what's called the paradox of choice, and I try to do that is really understand what's important to somebody, and not just give them, every kind of plan or idea. Because I mean, there are three important elements, when I'm talking to somebody about a long-term care plan or what advisors. First is, do you think that this plan can help you? If you don't think it can help you, or you don't understand why it can help you, that's where you first need to know. I never say to somebody, look, don't take a vacation. Don't do, yes, I want you to do all these things. I want you to have a life,
Right.
but you have enough that will help you, uh, or you can use some of your cash flow and make it up in your long-term care plan. And the other really important aspect, and this well, it's your health. These are plans that if the longer you wait to look into it, the longer you wait to own it, if you own it, it costs more because you're
Yeah.
you're nearer to something to have it. And the
Right.
other thing is that who knows what your health situation. You get it, and it can be delayed too. You need a rotary cuff replacement or update. You have some healthcare issue, um, where uh, that you need a procedure. That stops everything. It doesn't deny you. It just stops, it delays it. So then you have to, then go through, the waiting period. Then you can start again. And I've had some very motivated people who, have had that they appreciate it more
Right.
because of, oh, now I understand. But it's really your health, and a lot of things can happen to you. It could be neurological, it could be cognitive. You have some sort of accident. So the sooner you look into it, even if you say, look, I can't do it now, it just isn't working for me. I've had people that 2 or 3 years later, they'll call me and say, I'm ready. I'm emotionally, I'm
Right.
financially, whatever. I'm ready to do this. Then we can have the conversation. Then I can help them. But just to say, all these plans and all these things we'll do, you got you know you have to. One of the things I ask people is, say, do you love your family?
Right.
They say, no, I don't love my family. I don't love anybody. I don't care. I'm not that's not a person that I really want. I want or need as a client. I want people that I can work with, not that they're happy about owning it, but they'll say, if I have it, this is going to help my family.
Right.
This is going to
Right.
help my money. This is going to help, all the years that I invested with Shawn and he told me what to do. The last thing he says, yeah, but I got to take out 100,000 or two and a half, 200,000 from what I built up from Shawn, who spent all these years, helping me build this up so I can pay for my caregiving. Now that would make me unhappy.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a delicate balance, right? And it's not a one size fits all. You put together what their long care needs are, what they're in coordinated with their financial plans and their retirement plans. You get advice on it, and that's what we tell people that all the time with a retirement plan. It's not a one size fits all. I don't think it's that way for long term care either. There's different options, different type of plans. All those different things that can be personalized.
And
But
it's probably the way you ask the question that your clients or that they know that you understand. Not telling them, you say,
yeah,
yes, do they feel that they're understood?
right, right. Well, one thing I really appreciate, your background in the military, and thank you for your service. But tell us a little bit about how your military background and all that kind of influence how you're helping and make clients helping clients today make decisions about their long-term care.
Well, let me summarize this because this could go on and on. But I when I joined, you still had the draft, but I joined. I was under 18, and so I actually had to sign up for the draft after I got out of the service, and that was I, when I went to the draft board, they were actually they weren't pleasant. Even though I had my DD 214. That's what every service person gets. With their military service and decorations and certificates and all that stuff. And I thought about it later. If they were going to give me this kind of attitude, I would have had a different. I would have done things differently. But the point is that when you join the military, no matter what your background is, and I came from a background, educated people, I mean, really educated people. Um, and it was a middle class, background where we didn't live in expensive neighborhoods, we didn't live in expensive homes, but we lived well and we took nice vacations. But when you join the military, you're with everybody, and I learned things, I experienced things, I made friendships, or I made experience things I never would have had if I had done something else. And I'm not saying it was always fun. I'm not saying it was everything that happened was enjoyable, but it gave me empathy. Even if I didn't know it at the time, it really gave me empathy. And then when you're in a combat situation where you're seeing so many people getting hurt or killed, if that doesn't give you perspective,
Right,
and I don't know. So it really has given me, if not, if nothing else, it's given me that I know about people dying,
right,
and I know about people, living, and and again, when we were talking earlier, when somebody says, if I'm ill, I want to die, I'm saying everybody that I met, experienced, an injury or was killed. Nobody said, oh, I want to die. Nobody said that. No one.
right,
So
right,
those are uh, I don't know, there are other, maybe subliminal things like, I'm always more aware. I mean, I look around, and I want to make sure, what's around me. So I'm a
right,
little bit more, I think that's sort of been grade. I'm much more, I'm much more cautious than I might have been. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't live my life over, so I don't know,
right, right.
if I hadn't, but I'm really glad I did, and I'm even happier that I actually survived this whole, the ordeal. I mean, it was the military was when I was in was a post World War II kind of army, and it had that kind of attitude. Fortunately, it's actually evolved where
Yeah,
I think it's much better. It's much more humane than it was when I was in. I mean, so anyway,
yeah,
it really taught me. It taught me, you better enjoy life because who knows. If a artillery shell or a mortar shell is going to come in. We had that happen. I was at LZ Uplift in central Vietnam, and there was somebody that came in. They were a new recruit, and a mortar shell came in, and they were killed. So.
wow,
I mean, it can happen that
sure,
fast. And I remember replacements that came. We were in an outpost west of in the Central Highlands, and I was out in patrol, and they said, "Oh, you got some new people came in, and something happened. They got hurt." So I never saw them. I mean, that's how fast it can happen.
yeah. Well, we deeply appreciate your service, that's for sure, and there's no honor everybody that has ever served in the military. It's very dear to our hearts. Well, I want to wrap up with this: is for people, whether it's retirees or people looking, want to look into long-term care strategies and planning. What are some of the first things they need to do, to take that first step?
They need to talk to somebody. They need to, whether it's Raymond or Shawn or whomever you recommend, they need to have the conversation in order to know, so that either I can qualify them or I can ask them questions, they can qualify themselves, how do they really want to do this?
Right.
Now, some things, you need to do, you need to will and you need to invest, retire. Some things, you really also, I mean, you also do something about your health. If you smoke, try giving it up if you can, or if you're eating too much, you have too much obesity, you think things you need to work on. But the first thing is at least you're willing to have the conversation. I'm not saying that you need to begin the conversation so that we can find out your story, what's important to you. Do you feel understood? And if you're talking to me, do you like me? Do you trust me? If you don't like me, you don't trust me. There are other people you can talk to that can do it as well, or maybe even better. But you don't do it just because you say, I like the person. But it's do you trust them? Do they have an understanding of what you're that you want to help them? And will they design a plan that you may need for 20, 25 years? That's a long time.
It is. We're planning for retirements these days a lot longer than on average, people are living longer, and I think that makes long-term care even more, important, with medical technologies and things that are out there with us living longer. You want to live that comfortable life in your later years, and it's a very important topic that we always want to bring to light to everybody. I know everybody we work with, we want to make sure that's part of the plan. So I appreciate you coming on today. I appreciate.
I can just make one quick thing.
Yes, sir.
What I always say is you want the right plan at the right place at the right time.
Yep.
Whenever it is. People get upset if they say, I paid for this plan. How come I'm not getting it? Because they didn't understand or they just don't have the right plan. So I want to make sure you have the right plan at the right place at the right time. I'm sorry.
Yep. No, 100%. It has to be the right fit and definitely working with the right people. And it's an ultra important topic for your overall retirement plan. And I appreciate the insights. I appreciate you coming on today. We also want to mention that the guests that we have on the podcast, and including Raymond, doesn't mean that they endorse myself or Retire-Wise in any way. They are a guest on the show, and we deeply appreciate that. Until next time, here's to aligning your future. And Raymond, it's great to see you, and continue to serve those out there in the long-term community. Until next time, we'll talk. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Priority of Retirement with Shawn Maloney. If you enjoyed the show, check out our reviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more free resources to help with your retirement journey, go to retirewisepro.com or check the link in the show notes. You can also download a free copy of Shawn's book, The Priority of Retirement, or reach out to discuss working with him directly at retirewisepro.com. Thanks for listening.
Insurance products offered through the insurance business Retire-Wise LLC. Retire-Wise LLC is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through AE Wealth Management LLC, AEWM, a registered investment advisor. AEWM does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Retire-Wise LLC are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the insuring carrier. This podcast intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Retire-Wise LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Retire-Wise LLC. Guests of the Priority of Retirement are not affiliated with, nor do they endorse Shawn Maloney or Retire-Wise LLC.